Omar was just heading home after a long day of work when flashing police lights appeared in his rearview mirror. The officers approached with urgent suspicion, accusing him of a crime he had no knowledge of. Helplessly, he watched as they searched his car and made a shocking discovery. As the handcuffs clicked shut around his wrists, Omar couldn't shake the feeling that something far more sinister was at play. Little did the officers know, Omar's dashcam had captured every detail, and it held the key to unraveling the truth. The officers stepped out of their patrol car, hands hovering close to their holsters. One of them knocked on Omar's window, signaling him to roll it down. "Do you know why we pulled you over?" the officer asked sternly. Omar shook his head, bewildered. "We have reason to believe you're involved in a recent break-in," the officer continued. Omar was taken aback, completely unaware of any such incident happening nearby. Omar exited the car, complying with the officer's request, and stepped aside nervously. They began to search his vehicle, opening compartments and looking under seats. Their persistence paid off when one of the officers lifted the floor mat to reveal a small, suspicious package. "What's this?" the officer questioned, holding it up for the other to see. Omar was at a loss for words, having no idea how the package got there. As the officer radioed in, confirming they had found something, another pulled out a pair of handcuffs. As they clicked shut around Omar's wrists, a sense of dread washed over him. He knew he hadn't done anything wrong, but proving it seemed impossible. Standing there under the harsh glow of the streetlights, something about the entire situation felt off. Omar couldn't help but feel like he was being set up for something. The officers had no idea that Omar's dashcam had been recording their every move since the moment they pulled him over. Mounted unobtrusively on the windshield, it blended into the background but captured everything in crystal-clear detail. This small device might be the key to proving Omar's innocence. While he stood there, handcuffed and defenseless, a sliver of hope flickered in his mind. He just had to make someone review that footage. On his way home before the police stopped him, Omar had noticed a car trailing him closely. It was unsettling. He made several random turns, hoping to shake it off, but the car stuck to him like glue. He couldn't see the driver clearly, but the persistence was unnerving. At that time, little did he know that this tailgater could be linked to the predicament he now found himself in. Feeling increasingly anxious, Omar decided the best course of action was to head towards a busy street. Just as he managed to reach a more populated area, the flashing lights of the police car illuminated his rearview mirror. His heart sank, but he pulled over, hoping the situation would be clearer once he talked to law enforcement. However, things took a turn for the worse, almost immediately. While Omar complied with the officers, the dashcam continued its silent observation. It captured images of the trailing car speeding away the moment police pulled him over. This crucial bit of evidence was tucked away in the device's memory, ready to reveal the truth when the time was right. Omar didn't know it yet, but this footage could exonerate him and expose the real mastermind behind the setup. During the stop, one of the officers leaned in, voice grave and a hint of accusation in his tone. "We've got a tip-off that you're carrying drugs," he said. Omar's eyes widened in disbelief. Drugs? That was the last thing he expected to hear. His mind raced as he tried to make sense of the situation, but the officers were already moving to search his vehicle. Feeling a knot tighten in his stomach, Omar did his best to stay calm and comply with their orders. He stepped out of his car, hands raised slightly, and stood off to the side. Flashlight beams swept through the interior, illuminating every nook and cranny. Omar wasn't a criminal. He had nothing to hide. Yet, the officer's intense scrutiny made him feel like he was already guilty. The officers didn't take long before finding what they were looking for. One of them lifted the driver's seat and pulled out a small bag of drugs. Omar's mouth dropped open in shock. He had never seen that bag in his life. The officer held it up, his expression cold and accusing. Things were spiraling out of control, and Omar felt a desperate need to explain. Omar immediately began to protest, insisting that he had no idea how the bag got there. He pleaded with the officers, but his words fell on deaf ears. They were more interested in the incriminating evidence they had found. Without another word, they moved to arrest him. While his heart pounded in his chest, the handcuffs clicked shut again, and Omar was officially considered a criminal. What the officers didn't realize was that Omar's Dashcam was still recording everything. It caught their rough treatment as they roughly shoved him into the police car. The footage showed Omar flinching from their aggression, a far cry from the calm demeanor he had tried to keep. This recording would be crucial later on, a silent witness to the events as they unfolded. After a tense ride, Omar was taken to the police station. There, he was subjected to aggressive questioning. Officers bombarded him with questions, trying to break him down. They seemed convinced of his guilt and weren't interested in his protests. Every question was sharper, designed to trip him up or make him confess to something he didn't do. Omar stayed resolute, but it was exhausting. Meanwhile, Omar's girlfriend, Carla, heard about his arrest. Convinced that someone had set him up, she raced to the police station. She knew Omar wouldn't be involved in anything illegal. Her mind raced as she drove, thinking about who might have done this. She was determined to support Omar through this ordeal and do whatever it took to prove his innocence. By a stroke of fate, Carla found Omar's Dashcam, now in her possession. She recognized its potential importance in proving his innocence. Carla quickly realized that the footage might contain the evidence needed to clear Omar's name. She felt a glimmer of hope, clinging to the idea that this small, unobtrusive device could change everything. The next step was to review the footage. In the chaos of the arrest, the police confiscated Omar's phone, but failed to notice the Dashcam. They were confident that they had taken everything that could be used to argue against their evidence. This oversight would prove to be their critical mistake. The Dashcam remained hidden, waiting to be discovered and reviewed. It was a ticking time bomb of truth, ready to explode. In jail, Omar was clearly distressed, but found an older inmate willing to talk. This seasoned prisoner saw that Omar was new to this harsh environment and decided to offer some advice. He suggested ways to stay calm and composed while behind bars and warned Omar about whom to trust. The older man's guidance was a small comfort in an otherwise terrifying experience. During one of their conversations, the older inmate mentioned a lawyer known for specializing in wrongful arrests. He urged Omar to contact this lawyer, referencing the attorney's reputation for getting justice for the wrongly accused. Omar filed away this advice, knowing it could be a critical step towards proving his innocence. As daunting as his situation seemed, there was still hope. Jessica wasted no time ensuring that the critical Dashcam footage was backed up and safe. She created multiple copies on different devices, knowing this evidence might be their only chance to clear Omar's name. As they safeguarded the footage, Carla and Jessica also began discussing the next steps in defending Omar, understanding the importance of a well-prepared strategy. Inside the jail, Omar fought to keep his hope alive. He made an effort to connect with other inmates while maintaining a low profile. Nights were the hardest, filled with worry and fear, but Omar focused on the advice he'd received about the lawyer who specialized in wrongful arrests. This kept his spirit from breaking, even as he faced the harsh realities of prison life. Carla and Jessica decided to carry out their own investigation into who could have framed Omar. They began by listing any known enemies or people with possible motives. The deeper they dug, the more they realized they needed to think critically and leave no stone unturned. They knew they had to match Omar's determination if they wanted to succeed in proving his innocence. Their investigation led them to list individuals who might hold grudges against Omar. They reviewed his past interactions, both personal and professional. Carla was filled with a growing sense of concern as they unearthed names from Omar's life. They began to realize just how many people could be potential suspects. Still, they decided to stay focused on narrowing down the most likely contenders. As they sifted through the information, clues began pointing towards Carla's ex-boyfriend, Jack. With a history of obsessive and jealous behavior, Jack fit the profile of someone who might go to extremes. His past actions, which included stalking and manipulative tendencies, painted a disturbing picture. Carla's sense of dread deepened as she started considering the possibility that Jack could orchestrate such a diabolical plan. Carla decided to share her growing suspicions about Jack with Jessica. They both knew it was crucial to verify these hunches if they intended to clear Omar's name. Jessica took it upon herself to dig deeper into Jack's past, looking for any evidence that could link him to the setup. They understood the urgency of the situation and the need to act quickly and decisively. Jessica's research into Jack's background revealed more details about his motives and means of framing Omar. She found records of previous incidents where Jack had displayed alarming levels of jealousy and possessiveness. This new information bolstered their theory and gave them a clearer picture of how Jack could have orchestrated everything. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together, but they needed more. With each new discovery, Carla felt a growing sense of urgency. Time was against them, and Omar's situation seemed more dire with each passing day. They knew they had to gather as much evidence as possible to present a strong case and prove his innocence. Carla and Jessica worked tirelessly, driven by the thought of freeing Omar and exposing the true culprit behind the setup. Finally, armed with their findings, Carla and Jessica approached Omar's lawyer. They presented everything they had discovered about Jack, including his possible motives and history of obsessive behavior. The lawyer listened attentively, recognizing the significance of their information. This newfound evidence provided a crucial new direction for the defense strategy, making it possible to challenge the prosecution's case more effectively. The lawyer took a special interest in the Dashcam footage, understanding its potential as critical evidence in court. The footage not only proved that Omar was being tailed, but also caught the moment the planted evidence was revealed. As they reviewed the clips, the lawyer's confidence grew. They now had a strong cornerstone for Omar's defense that could make all the difference in proving his innocence. Omar's legal team gathered around a conference table, poring over every detail of the case. Their primary focus was the Dashcam footage, a potential game-changer. They devised strategies to ensure the footage would be admissible, examining legal precedents and plotting counter-arguments for the prosecution. The room buzzed with a mixture of tension and hope, each member committed to proving Omar's innocence. They understood the importance of getting this right, knowing Omar's future depended on it. As the court hearing date loomed closer, tensions were palpable. Omar was still in custody, his days filled with uncertainty and stress. The legal team worked endlessly, but the weight of the situation was evident on their faces. Carla visited Omar frequently, offering words of encouragement. They both knew the stakes were incredibly high. With each passing day, the pressure intensified, and everyone involved felt the mounting urgency. Carla and Jessica felt the immense weight of responsibility to clear Omar's name. They had become key players in this legal battle, and their actions could determine the outcome. Each night, they reviewed evidence, brainstormed strategies, and discussed every possible scenario. They kept pushing forward, motivated by their love for Omar and their desire for justice. Despite their fatigue, they remained resolute, knowing that they were Omar's best chance at freedom. Omar's lawyer took a decisive step by filing a motion to include the dashcam footage as evidence. This move was critical to their defense strategy, aiming to present undeniable proof of Omar's innocence. The legal team meticulously drafted the motion, ensuring it met all requirements. As they prepared for the court's decision, they remained hopeful yet cautious. The outcome of this motion would significantly impact the next steps in their battle for justice. The prosecution launched an aggressive attempt to discredit the dashcam footage, labeling it as unreliable. They argued that the footage could have been tampered with or manipulated. Omar's legal team anticipated this move, but knew it would be a challenging fight. They gathered expert testimonies and technical reports to counter the prosecution's claims. The battle over the footage's credibility was fierce, a crucial tug-of-war that would influence the entire case. Jessica took the stand, providing detailed technical evidence to validate the dashcam footage's authenticity. She explained the device's security features, which made tampering nearly impossible. Jessica's confident and clear testimony was crucial in proving that the footage was genuine and unaltered. Her expertise countered the prosecution's attempts to sow doubt. As she spoke, Omar's legal team felt a surge of optimism, sensing that they were regaining ground in this legal battle. Omar's legal team spent countless hours anticipating the prosecution's next moves to discredit the video evidence. They brainstormed every possible angle the prosecution might take, preparing detailed counter-arguments. They knew this fight would be a marathon, not a sprint. The team remained vigilant, continuously updating their strategies based on new developments. Their relentless preparation aimed at outmaneuvering the opposition and ensuring that the truth prevailed in court. Carla stayed hopeful, yet anxious about the court's impending decision on the dashcam footage. She spent sleepless nights reflecting on the case, swinging between optimism and dread. While she believed in the strength of their argument, the uncertainty weighed heavily on her. She knew that this evidence was crucial for Omar's defense. Her unwavering support and determination to see justice served kept her going, even during the most challenging moments. In a pivotal moment, the judge ruled that the dashcam footage would be admissible in court. This decision marked a significant victory for Omar's legal team. The courtroom buzzed with reactions as the judge delivered the ruling. Carla and Jessica exchanged relieved glances, their hard work paying off. For the first time in weeks, a glimmer of hope shone brightly. With this crucial evidence now in play, the path to proving Omar's innocence had a clearer direction. With the judge's ruling, Omar felt a newfound glimmer of hope. His legal team, now bolstered by the admissible dashcam footage, grew more confident in their strategy. They meticulously prepared for the next steps in the trial, focusing on how to present the evidence compellingly. For Omar, the support and tireless efforts of Carla and Jessica were lifelines in this storm. The road ahead was still challenging, but they now had a fighting chance. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Omar's trial began. The judge took his seat, and the attorneys for both sides prepared to present their opening statements. Omar sat nervously beside his lawyer, fingers tapping anxiously on the table. The prosecution began, highlighting the drugs found in Omar's car as irrefutable evidence. Omar's lawyer listened intently, ready to counter with their own powerful narrative. The stakes were high, and everyone felt the pressure. Omar's lawyer rose to present the defense's opening statement, immediately drawing attention to the dashcam footage. She spoke confidently about its potential to exonerate Omar, explaining how this critical evidence would reveal the truth behind the planted drugs. The lawyer stressed that Omar was a victim of a malicious setup, urging the court to keep an open mind. The defense's strategy was clear: to demonstrate Omar's innocence by exposing the real culprit through the dashcam's lens. The prosecution built their case methodically, starting with the substantial amount of drugs found in Omar's car. They argued that this discovery was indisputable proof of his involvement in criminal activity. Witnesses, including the arresting officers, testified about the circumstances of the arrest and the search of Omar's vehicle. The prosecution leaned heavily on the physical evidence, painting a grim picture of Omar's alleged guilt. It was clear they intended to leverage the drugs as their primary weapon. Omar's lawyer took the floor once more, now with the critical task of introducing the dashcam footage into evidence. She addressed the judge, stating the importance of this video in proving Omar's innocence. The lawyer methodically explained how the footage captured every moment, from the suspicious car trailing Omar to the critical moment of the drugs being planted. With the judge's approval, the courtroom prepared to view the damning evidence that could turn the tide. Silence fell over the courtroom as the dashcam footage played on a large screen. The jurors leaned forward, eyes fixed on the video. It started with Omar driving home, unaware of the danger ahead. The recording clearly showed a figure, later identified as Jack, sneaking around Omar's parked car. Gasps were heard as Jack's suspicious behavior became evident. Omar's lawyer watched the jury's reactions closely, knowing each moment of shock strengthened their case. The crucial moment arrived when the footage showed Jack planting something under the driver's seat, moments before the police arrived. The clarity of the dashcam video left no room for doubt about what was happening. The courtroom buzzed with whispered reactions as this critical piece of evidence unfolded. Omar's lawyer paused. The footage to highlight this moment, underscoring the malicious intent behind the planted drugs. This revelation hit the courtroom like a thunderclap. The room erupted as the footage concluded, showing Jack's incriminating actions in full clarity. Jurors exchanged stunned glances, while murmurs spread among the spectators. Even the prosecution seemed taken aback by the undeniable evidence now presented. Omar sat, feeling a rush of cautious optimism as he witnessed the powerful impact the footage had on everyone. The defense had successfully planted seeds of doubt in the minds of those who initially saw him as guilty. Omar's lawyer seized the moment, focusing the court's attention on the behavior of the police officers during the arrest. The footage showed their rough handling of Omar and ignored his protests of innocence. The defense argued that this aggressive behavior was indicative of a preconceived narrative against Omar. The lawyer pointed out discrepancies between the officers' statements and their actions, suggesting a deeper level of misconduct that warranted further scrutiny. Continuing with their momentum, Omar's lawyer methodically pressed on, using the dashcam footage to challenge every aspect of the prosecution's narrative. She highlighted how Jack's actions and the officer's misconduct were interconnected in framing Omar. The jurors' faces reflected growing doubts about the validity of the charges against him. The lawyer's relentless focus on the planted drugs and the visual evidence aimed to dismantle the prosecution's case piece by piece, reinforcing Omar's claim of innocence. Jessica dove deeper into the technical aspects of the dashcam, explaining its features in detail. She highlighted the high-definition video capture, the timestamp integrity, and the tamper-proof design. Her explanation made it clear how difficult it would be to manipulate the footage without leaving traces. By breaking down the technology, Jessica provided the jury with a clearer understanding of how reliable and credible the dashcam footage truly was. Carla took the stand to share her personal history with Jack, shedding light on his obsessive tendencies. She recounted several instances where Jack's jealousy had led to confrontational behavior and threats. Carla described how his obsession grew over time, painting a picture of a man unwilling to let go. Her testimony was crucial, providing the context needed to understand why Jack would go to such extreme lengths to frame Omar. The prosecution grappled to counter the compelling evidence from the dashcam footage. They questioned the legitimacy of the footage and the testimonies about Jack's character, but found themselves increasingly cornered. Each attempt to discredit the evidence was met with solid rebuttals from Jessica's technical insights and Carla's first-hand accounts. The evidence presented by the defense had significantly weakened the prosecution's position, making it hard for them to sustain their case. Omar's lawyer stood up for the closing argument, delivering a powerful plea for justice. She carefully summarized the evidence, emphasizing the clear footage of the drugs being planted and the obsessive behavior of Jack. Pointing out the gaps in the prosecution's case, she urged the jury to focus on the overwhelming evidence proving Omar's innocence. Her words resonated deeply, effectively framing the trial's narrative around the truth and the need for justice. The jury began their deliberation, meticulously reviewing all the evidence presented during the trial. They weighed the testimonies, the dashcam footage, and the behaviors of the key players. The room was filled with intense discussions and debates, each juror considering the facts before them. Their task was enormous, knowing that their decision would significantly impact Omar's life. The weight of their responsibility was apparent as they continued to deliberate. Omar sat with his legal team, anxiously waiting for the jury's deliberation to end. Time seemed to stretch indefinitely, each minute filled with tension and uncertainty. Carla and Jessica were by his side, offering silent support and reassurance. The courtroom atmosphere was thick with anticipation, as every moment brought them closer to a potential verdict. Omar hoped for the best, even as the anxiety gnawed at him, knowing his fate lay in the jury's hands. During the tense waiting period, Carla and Jessica provided invaluable emotional support to Omar. They sat beside him, offering words of encouragement and holding his hands tightly. Their presence brought a semblance of calm to the otherwise nerve-wracking situation. The bond between them was evident. Their unwavering belief in Omar's innocence kept his spirits from faltering. Despite the overwhelming anxiety, the support of his loved ones gave Omar strength. The moment arrived when the jury returned with a verdict. The courtroom fell into an anticipatory silence, with every eye focused on the jury foreman. Omar's heart pounded as he waited for the words that could change his life. Carla squeezed his hand, and Jessica held her breath. The tension was palpable as everyone in the room realized the gravity of the impending announcement. The silence was almost deafening, filled with collective apprehension. The jury foreman rose and announced the verdict: not guilty. As the words echoed through the courtroom, a wave of relief washed over Omar. The weight of the wrongful accusations lifted off his shoulders. Carla's eyes filled with tears of joy, and Jessica hugged her tightly. The courtroom buzzed with reactions, but for Omar, the only thing that mattered was his newfound freedom. His fight for justice had finally prevailed. The feeling of relief was palpable as Omar was exonerated. The tension that had gripped him for so long melted away. Carla and Jessica's support had been instrumental, and now their efforts were rewarded. As Omar stepped out of the courtroom, a free man, he felt immense gratitude for the relentless pursuit of truth. The nightmare was over, and he could finally start to rebuild his life, cleared of all wrongful accusations. The judge banged the gavel, signaling the immediate release of Omar from custody. The gravitas of the moment wasn't lost on anyone present. Omar, still wearing the expression of someone who had faced incredible odds, was finally free. His lawyer quickly moved to complete the necessary paperwork, ensuring that Omar's name was officially cleared. Omar felt like a weight had been lifted off his shoulders as the reality of his release began to sink in. A mix of applause and sighs of relief echoed through the courtroom as the news of Omar's release spread. Friends, family, and a few justly minded observers couldn't hold back their reactions. The clapping grew louder, creating a chorus of support that resonated within the walls. Even the judge took a moment to acknowledge the emotional gravity of the situation. This moment was a powerful affirmation of justice finally being served. As Omar stepped out of the courtroom, Carla rushed to embrace him. The two held each other tightly, a mixture of tears and laughter breaking the tension that had gripped them for so long. Omar felt her warmth and support envelop him, reinforcing the love and solidarity that had helped him through the ordeal. The embrace was not just a symbol of their love, but also a testament to the power of unwavering belief in each other. Omar extended his heartfelt thanks to his lawyer, Carla, and Jessica. Each one had played a vital role in his fight for justice. His lawyer had been tireless, Carla had stood by him unwaveringly, and Jessica's technical expertise with the dashcam footage had been crucial. Omar's voice was heavy with emotion as he spoke, making sure to acknowledge every effort that had contributed to his exoneration. This moment of gratitude was deeply felt by all. Jack, the jealous ex-boyfriend, now faced serious legal repercussions for his actions. Charges of evidence tampering were among the most severe, but his list of offenses was long. The authorities arrested him, ensuring that he would answer for his malicious behavior in a court of law. The weight of his treachery now burdened him, reversing the roles as Omar walked free and Jack faced the justice system. Karma had come to collect its dues. The police officers involved in Omar's wrongful arrest were placed under investigation as well. Their misconduct had surfaced, evident in their rough treatment and disregard of proper procedure. Internal affairs commenced a thorough probe into their actions that night. Suspensions and potential termination loomed over the officers involved. The law held them accountable, making it clear that such violations of duty would not be tolerated, ensuring a semblance of justice was upheld. With the ordeal behind them, Omar and Carla began to plan their future, grateful for their newfound freedom. The experience had brought them even closer, solidifying their bond. They discussed everything from short-term plans to long-term dreams, knowing now that they could start afresh. Their conversations were filled with hope and possibilities, each idea tinged with the relief of being able to look towards a brighter future. Freedom had never tasted so sweet. Jessica received much-deserved praise for her technical expertise and dedication to justice. Her role had been pivotal in unearthing the truth through the dashcam footage. Friends and family acknowledged her efforts, and even members of the legal community took note. Jessica's tech skills and relentless pursuit of what was right had made a significant impact. She didn't seek the spotlight, but it found her nonetheless, casting her as a hero in this narrative of justice. As Omar reflected on the ordeal, he realized the immense importance of that little dashcam. What seemed like an ordinary piece of tech had become his savior. The ordeal had taught him about the fragile balance between innocence and guilt, and how quickly life could change with one accusation. Omar pledged to always stand up for what was right, understanding now more than ever the power of truth and evidence in seeking justice. Focused on finding closure, Omar and Carla moved forward, knowing the truth had prevailed. Life was no longer overshadowed by the wrongful accusations, allowing them to dream freely once again. Their bond had been tested and proven strong, As they looked towards the future, their hearts brimmed with hope. Knowing they had overcome such a harrowing experience together, Omar and Carla embraced the dawn of a new, unburdened chapter in their lives.